What's up, everybody? One Fun Guy podcast in the studio, baby. We're just hanging out tonight. It's going to be me and Kelly. He's going to be on in a little bit. I'm going to share this out. If you guys are new to the One Fun Guy podcast, please like, follow, and share. If you guys like what you see tonight, tap the link. I'd appreciate all the love and support, all the help I could get. Hope everybody's doing well on this Thursday night. I'm just going to share it out real quick, guys. Give me a few seconds here. I'm going to get everybody going, see who's going to be on. If anybody wants to hang out, pop in. We'll see what's going on, see what's happening. Kind of go from there. I don't know what is going on tonight, guys. I wanted to have Liz come on. There were a couple people I wanted to have live on my show. Danielle, what's going on? If you guys are new here, say hi. If you're old school, introduce yourself, interact. I'm going to try to share this out, but I'm going to say hi to the people who are on. Taylor, what's going on? Danielle, what's going on? Zara Star, what's going on? Some of my OGs are in the house. I love it. If you guys are new, introduce yourselves. If you're not new, welcome aboard. We're doing good tonight, guys. It's a Thursday night. Kelly's going to be on. I don't know how long we're going to be on for. I'm going to share it out. Let me just get to him real quick, guys. And then we're going to go from there. It's going to be a fun night. We're just kind of rocking and rolling tonight, guys. We're just going to do our thing, kind of hang out, just have fun, be ourselves, go from there. Ellie, what's going on? I am going to start by sharing this out to Kelly. If I can find him. Oh, where is he? Let me see. If I send this out to more than one person, guys, or more than one of you, please, I apologize. I don't mean to. It only lets me share 15 at a time, and it doesn't always pick up where it leaves off. So I know I send duplicate to some of you guys, so please don't be upset if I do that. It's just the nature of this thing. I don't necessarily know where I leave off, and it just kind of gets everything all messed up. But I'm going to just share it out to a few people, guys. NC Crazy Girl, what's going on? If you guys are new here, say hi. If you're OG, just kind of share it out. Be interactive in the chat, guys. Say hi to everybody. Introduce yourselves. I'm going to get this out to a few people. I do not see Kelly on this list, so I got to find him. Let me see where he's at. Give me a minute, guys. I just got to type in the search. Usually he pops up like number 1 or number 2, but I don't know where he's at tonight, so we're gonna find out. I'm gonna share it out. Obviously he's my partner, guys. Let's see here. There we go. So guys, if you don't know who Kelly is one half of my podcast guest. When I do it on Thursdays, me and him just kind of go. Kelly is awesome, guys. He's really cool. Follow Arsenic, guys. Kelly Arsenic is awesome, guys. He just did an industrial cover of Taylor Swift. Don't mind me. I'm cracking up a cold beverage, guys. Dr. Pepper Zero is awesome. If you guys haven't tried it, I recommend doing that. With that being said, guys, follow Arsenic, guys. Kelly is awesome. He creates awesome music. He's got this industrial vibe going. He's doing a bunch of covers. He's got an EP coming out. He's dropped a bunch of songs on Spotify, Apple Music, all the major platforms, guys. So follow Arsenic. Kelly will pop on. He's awesome. He's doing a bunch of good stuff over there, guys. So support Kelly. Support Arsenic. My other boy is Kaji. Kaji's rocking and rolling, guys. He's doing some southern rock stuff, some stoner stuff, some sludge stuff. So Kaji is another guy. If you guys, he's been on my podcast. So follow Kaji, follow Kelly. Those are my guys. Obviously, Kelly's my partner. I want to get Kaji back on so bad. I know he's got a bunch of stuff going on. He's doing his own thing on TikTok. He's killing it. I can't tell you guys to support Kaji and Arsenic enough, guys. Those are my boys. Obviously, Kelly is going to be my partner tonight, so he'll be on in just a little bit. Kelly's got a new album coming out. He's dropping an EP. He wants to do it around the first of the year, get everything settled. That's going to be awesome for him. I'm super stoked. I kind of hope he puts it on vinyl. just so I can get it. I'll obviously support him buying his CD or buying. I just don't have a way to play it. I don't have a CD player. I was thinking about maybe buying a cheap one on Amazon with some Bluetooth. Obviously, I have a vinyl collection you guys can see behind me. So that's kind of my thing here. So I appreciate the love and support, guys. I thank you for all the hearts and likes, and it means a lot to me, guys. As soon as I get to 1,500, I hit the FYP. My goal isn't to be TikTok famous, guys. I've said that before. I've said it again, and I'll say it 1,000 more times. If you can follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that's where I want to be. Me and Kelly just do this because we're having fun. Jess, what's going on? Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support as always. My main goal is to be YouTube famous, guys. I want to have a big YouTube channel, a big YouTube presence, monetize that. I love TikTok for networking. I love hanging out with you guys. I love being a part of this, but TikTok's not my jam, guys. It's awesome. It's where I like meeting people and interacting with people, but YouTube is where I want my home to be, guys. So if you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, if I can get 1,000 subscribers, I could start monetizing it. That's where I want to be, guys. There's no doubt about that. Something just made a noise. So thank you guys for the love and support. Thank you for the gifts, guys. I can't appreciate that enough. Like I said, guys, I'm not here to make money. I'm not here to monetize TikTok at all. I just like hanging out with Kelly on here, doing my thing when I'm on it. YouTube is where I want to be. I went live here by myself last week, and Kelly was busy, and I kind of went live on here for 15 minutes, and I had some followers go over to my YouTube channel when I went live, and I had 26 people watching me live on YouTube, guys. So not to say that I don't appreciate the support here, but I think YouTube is just a much better reach for me, guys. I've started to scale down my podcast. I'm doing every other week now, like I said I was going to, but I just want to have more positive guests. A lot of people ask me to be a part of the show, and I definitely want them to, and I definitely want them to be on and show what they need to do. But the thing with it for me, guys, is that I do get a lot of people asking to be on my podcast, which is fine. Obviously, I have my Snap, and I have, that's a way to get a hold of me. This is a way to get a hold of me. Like, I get that, but I also have to vet people too, guys, right? I need people that are positive and have a good experience and want to share their life story with me. And it's hard sometimes because you really have to tell some people sometimes that you're just not a good fit. Like, you're not what my podcast wants to be. My podcast is uplifting. It's to be supportive. It's to get somebody's message out, to get their music out, to get their story out, to get their whatever they're doing out. So with that being said, guys, like, not everybody is going to be a good fit for me. So if you reach out to me and I don't respond back, or I don't set something up, please don't be, upset that I didn't do it. Like, I'm a one-man show here. I don't have a team. I don't have a crew. Ellie obviously is my moderator. So, she hooks me up with a bunch of stuff and takes care of my podcast and stuff like that, which is a huge support, right, for me, having somebody in my corner. But it's hard because, like, I do get a lot of people that want to be on, which is great. But NC Crazy Girl, if you do, that's awesome. Send them my way. Ellie's hooked me up with a bunch of musicians already, so I can't thank her enough for that. She's awesome. She's gotten me Shatter the Moon. She's gotten me quite a few connections with that. So with that being the case, guys, that would be awesome. Kelly is in and around here. I don't know where he's at. I just saw him pop in. So when he gets on, guys, obviously me and Kelly, we're going to talk some music. We're going to talk what's going on in his world, what's going on in my world. But I just wanted to thank you guys for the support. Let me see how I can get you on, Kelly. Give me 1 second. Let me invite you in. Let me see where you're at here. If you are live, I can get you on. Where are you? Last time I was doing this and I hit the wrong button by mistake, and I wanted to co-host with Kelly, and I hit the wrong button and some girl hopped on, which actually turned out to be a really cool experience. She had a really good voice. She was a really good singer, but it was a total mistake. Like, I hit her and she came on, and I meant to get Kelly. And so we had 3 of us in the box, and it was kind of weird because she was more of an eclectic, like, acoustic singer, which was awesome. But, like, she was like, I don't know the band you're talking about. I was like, oh, that's all right.
Well,
So we had fun though, nonetheless. It was pretty cool.
it's an eclectic taste.
Yeah,
It's fun. How you doing? It's been
I'm
a
good.
while.
How about you? How are things? How's the music going? I saw the new Taylor Swift cover, a little bit segment of that, so I'm liking it. I'm digging it. It's nice.
Yeah, I did Taylor Swift and did a Metallica. I have a few more snippets. Did some 3-6 Mafia and
Nice.
what else? Rolling Stones Painted Black because everybody's got to do that one. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
uh,
crazy because when I was in college, like 3-6 Mafia was like the rap group everybody listened to, right? And that was before Little John and before Crunk came out, and you had Mike Jones and you had Paul Wall and you had all those guys, but like 3-6 Mafia was OG Southern rap. So
yeah,
kudos to 3-6 Mafia.
yeah. I did about 20 seconds of Half on a Sack.
Okay.
It just had a groove to it that I thought was
Yeah.
pretty cool. So yeah,
You know what
but
else
yeah,
would be
yeah.
too is a slob on my knob. That's a good one.
Okay. Gee.
So hey,
I'm
that's
not
three
too
six mafia in the
familiar.
nutshell. It's awesome. Right?
Yeah,
They're crazy,
no,
man.
it was in my Discord. I said, I gotta do some hip hop. What should I do? And
Yeah,
someone said that one is. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do something.
yeah.
So
Three
that's
three six mafia was like I said when I was in school. That was like the jam. You had Beastie Boys at like frat parties, and then you had your Eminem quite hadn't broke as big yet. That was more like sophomore junior year, but like freshman year parties was 3-6 Mafia, Beastie Boys, like that was if you were listening to rap, that was it. It was like the old school rap. And then all of a sudden, like the Southern rap broke big, Eminem broke big, and that kind of changed the universe for most of the kids in college at that point.
yeah. And I mean, I lived in Sweden at the time. Rap was definitely not as prevalent at all as
Mhm.
over here, right? I mean, Beastie Boys for sure, but that was probably also because it was Rick Rubin and he did
Yeah,
Slayer and Kerry King was in the videos and played on the first album and stuff. So that was kind of the thing. But yeah, they were punk rockers too, right?
yeah, like
They,
old school
they were
rap
a
for
hardcore band, so that kind of
yeah,
like legitimized it for us who were more into the sort of the extreme metal underground type stuff. Like
yeah. And I
they
know
were
we've talked about it before, but like when the Judgment Night soundtrack came out,
oh yeah,
that was like people knew who Onyx was. Like in the States, we if you Slam was on every radio station. Onyx blew up with Slam. You had the Wu-Tang Clan. They were kind of prevalent in their thing, as far as like LL Cool J and DMX and those kind of bands were up and coming in the 90s. You already had your established bands. Everybody knew who the Wu-Tang Clan was. Everybody knew who the Beasties were, but not many people knew who Onyx was, and not many people, knew about what's the other one? Twista, right? Like Twista was a Chicago guy who rapped incredibly fast before Busta Rhymes. So people are they think Busta Rhymes is the best like tongue twister rapper that there is. Twista was 15 years before Busta Rhymes even got on scene. And he was on the Judgment Night soundtrack. So you had a really eclectic heavy metal bands meeting up with rap bands, and it was like one of the most pioneered soundtracks of all time. And it really kind of doesn't get the recognition it deserves. But like in the metal scene with like Helmet and Biohazard and all the other bands that were on that album with all the rap artists, like that was like way ahead of its time, like way ahead of its time.
yeah, yeah. Two favorite songs on that one is Helmet, um, with was it Onyx? No,
I
I
think Biohazard was with Onyx. I think Helmet was with. I could Google it real quick. I don't remember
uh,
who Helmet was with.
yeah, it was just another victim though. But when I saw them live, was it last year? They played their half of that song, right? Because
Yeah,
that was kind of a half and half type thing. But
right.
also, Faith No More and Booyah Tribe. That
Yeah,
what an amazing tune. Yeah,
right. So yeah, so I mean, like that album, I don't think really gets the place in history that it really deserves. I mean, the movie was okay, right? Like when you
it got a
watch the
little
movie, it's kind of like a horror meets kind of sci-fi meets, Wrong Turn type of thing. A bunch of white guys in an RV get lost, and they end up in the wrong side of town, and they got to basically get out of the situation, and they find themselves in the middle of a gang war and a turf war, and they're like, so the movie is kind of like, it was good. I wouldn't say it was great. It wasn't like groundbreaking, but that soundtrack was. And
Yes.
it's, and I saw your post about the Tron thing. I haven't seen Tron myself. I didn't see the movie. I at least the new one. I haven't seen the new one. I've heard a couple snippets of the soundtrack. I know you have your opinion about both. I haven't really listened or heard it, so I should probably just watch it for myself. And
Yeah. I won't say too much, but I guess we have a topic then, in terms of, like film music a little bit.
yeah,
Because well, Judgment Night for sure is one of those where the soundtrack eclipsed the movie. I mean, I haven't seen the movie. There are people here in town, saying that it's a great Chicago movie. You gotta watch it, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch it, but I didn't get around to it. But definitely, yeah. I mean, any metalhead will say that that's one of the best soundtracks of all time. Like, and then there's the singles soundtrack, right? That was the whole grunge thing, and it was
singles
it,
was.
it, but the movie was trying to capitalize on the whole grunge thing, like, okay, what's it like to be a grunge kid in Seattle type of thing. But it was really not right. The movie was, okay at best, but obviously the soundtrack is stupendously good. Like it's
Yeah.
The it's got the best Pearl Jam song my favorite Pearl Jam song. It's got my favorite Alice in Chains song. It's got all, like it's got, it was really like, they pulled out, all the stops for that one.
And they made cameos in the movie, right? Chris Cornell had a cameo.
Yeah.
Matt, what's his name? The drummer Matt Cameron from Soundgarden had a cameo in it. So,
Yeah.
Halloween still might be. So Halloween, like we talked before, right? Halloween soundtrack is in terms of like movie to soundtrack is awesome, right? That ambient sound. We've talked about John Carpenter before and his soundtracks and what he did for movies in terms of creating ambient sound to go with a movie, right? I don't think there's any better as far, maybe what's the guy that did all the Tim Burton movies? He's pretty good too. He was the guy from he was in that Oingo Boingo band. What's his name? He's the singer. Danny Elfman, right. So Danny Elfman probably might be more credited in terms of like success with soundtracks and movies overall. But I think, as far as John Carpenter in the 80s go, I don't think anybody touched him and what he did for the movies that he scored, that they were really incredible. I mean, you can't really, find better movies with better scores that so enhance the movie. And I'm not talking about movies that had real songs in them. I'm talking about soundtracks that were created for movies, which was a thing back in the day.
Exactly. Yeah. It was not a collection of songs that sort of went with the movie. It wasn't like music supervised. It was scored. But he's traveled around to actually perform his music as well.
Yeah.
To the music. I mean, Hans Zimmer has done that lately. In a huge way, but Carpenter has done that on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Which I've never been able to see him. I don't think that he's been around here, but I know folks in the UK and stuff that have gone to see that and have said that is absolutely amazing. But yeah, Escape from New York and all that stuff. Like it's the thing, like it, to the point where there's a band called Carpenter Brute, which is takes the name from John Carpenter. And I hope to go see them. By the way, I think it's in March when they open for Health. So at Saltshed. But anyway, so yeah, hugely influential. And I would say that influence on the whole genre of synthwave is coming a lot from John Carpenter's scores, right? He sounds like synthwave. Yeah, you mentioned Tron, and I think that the best score of all, which says a lot because I mean I'm a huge Blade Runner fan. I love the Vangelis soundtracks. You know, like he's done some really good soundtracks. But Daft Punk on the Tron Legacy, the second movie,
Hmm.
I can listen to that as an album, start to finish. I enjoy
Yeah,
the movie only because I'm listening to the music. And for people that think that, you know, well, Daft Punk isn't that like sort of like house dance music? It's like, yeah, sure, if you
it
buy
is.
their
Yeah.
albums, but that score is not. There's one dancey hit, but it's like 2.5 minutes tops
Hmm.
out of the whole thing. You know, they had a club scene and they make a cameo or whatever, right? Because they had to have a single, I guess. Also, right? So they tried to replicate that with Nine Inch Nails, which fell flat, in my opinion. I'm not gonna say too much, but
Yeah.
apparently Trent Reznor wasn't too pleased to be tapped for it so much, even less so to put the Nine Inch Nails moniker on it. But I guess he got paid gobs of money, so
It
yeah.
talks, right? I mean, it's not, and
So
it's not
it's
the
like,
first
yeah,
time
I can
Trent's.
whip this up in a weekend, and I'll,
Yeah.
I'll get
And
it
it's
done.
not the first time Trent's done a movie, right? Like he's done Wanted,
Oh,
he's done,
plenty.
they used the Nine Inch Nails song in that movie. He kind of had some, issues with the score in that. That was actually a really good movie, kind of outlandish about snipers and things like that. But like the premise of the movie was really cool. Angelina Jolie was an assassin and they recruit a kid that they want him to kill his dad, or at least you think it's his dad, but it's not him. So it's kind of a neat
Yeah.
concept to a movie, but they used a bunch of Nine Inch Nails songs in that, and Trent kind of gave him the okay, and then he ended up overseeing the score of that movie, which was kind of unique in itself. But he kind of was under the radar with that. They used a bunch of Nine Inch Nails songs, but Trent kind of had the blessing given to them, so I think he was unnamed in the score, but it was him. I mean, it was so and that movie was actually decent, right? Like that was a decent movie.
Was that Wanted or
Yeah,
no?
Wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, he's won Oscars. I think that even the first movie he scored, Social Network, he
Mhm.
won an Oscar for that. Him and Atticus Ross, and
Yeah.
I mean, he seems to want to keep it separate, like his scoring work, keeps separate from his Nine Inch Nails stuff. But I guess because of Daft Punk on a previous Tron movie, he was tapped to do the Nine Inch Nails thing. From what I hear, he was
Sure.
reluctant.
I
But
mean, let's face it. Like
again,
Trent
get this
Reznor's,
is going your way.
yeah. I mean, Trent Reznor's music is genius, right? But what's going to sell is Nine Inch Nails, right? People know Trent Reznor is Trent Reznor. Atticus Ross has done his fair share of awesome music, right? But what's going to sell? Trent Reznor or Nine Inch Nails? Nine Inch Nails all day long, right? So like when you tap into that, right, it's got the more industrial kind of omnious sound to it. Like I said, I didn't see the movie. I know, you know, I'm I'm a fan of Jared Leto and his artistic being, right? Like he went from being a musician and a pretty good one to an actor, arguably okay, right? He's made some good movies, he's made some really bad ones, right? But like he is very artistic. So I give him credit for that. But I mean, sometimes movies pick the wrong guy or go with the wrong guy, and you should have, oh, this guy should have been that role or this guy should have been in it. Things happen, right? People bow out, their managers tell them not to do it. At the end of the day, they picked him. Could they probably have found somebody better? Absolutely. I didn't see the movie. I just saw the clips like everybody else did. So I don't know per se if it would have been any better had they picked another actor. It's also the director, the writer, the screenplay. Everything's kind of going to one to make it work. So I'm not blaming Jared Leto for having to move a tank. If the writing sucked and he did his best, that he could. Sometimes just movies are bad, right? Or an actor might make a bad movie pretty decent. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
no, that's true. And I won't do spoilers, but I wasn't a fan of the Tron movie at all. But I can't and I am not a Jared Leto fan. Like I am really not. But I have to admit that it wasn't entirely his fault. It wasn't that he bugged me and that was the problem with
Mhm.
it. There were multiple problems with the movie. So can't blame him entirely for it. So
No, and Jared Leto, like, right, he's one of those guys that's like right place, right time, right? Like you have a good looking musician who can sing. They said, let's make him a model. So he models, does some runway stuff. Then they said, let's get him behind the camera. And he was in a couple cameos in some movies. And then all of a sudden they're like, let's give him a lead role and see what he can do, right? So, I mean, here's a guy that's not an actor by trade. He's a musician. He went out to Hollywood, with 30 Seconds to Mars. And then a decade into his music career, he becomes a fashionista icon because everyone says what a good looking dude he is, right? He turned in. Now, how many rock stars in the 80s and 90s were good looking guys that just never got the chance to act, right? Chris Cornell could have made tons of movies, right? Guy's got a great voice, a great screen presence. Scott Weiland would have been another one, right? Put Scott Weiland in a movie, probably do pretty damn good, right? He's just kind of got that persona to him. So I think a lot of rock stars back in the day were just overlooked because if you were a musician, you were a musician. You weren't necessarily a good looking person, right? And then you have Johnny Depp who does the opposite, right? He starts acting, then he goes into modeling, then he goes into music. He's a pretty good guitar player. I'm not going to knock him. I mean, he's not the greatest, but I mean, but here's a guy that is the opposite of Jared Leto, right? He's an actor, then he becomes a model, then he becomes a musician, where Jared Leto became a model actor. So I know a lot of people give him crap for it, but like you can't blame the guy for trying to make a buck, right? He's in Hollywood. They gave him a chance. He's going up and down the runway. He's a good looking dude. I mean, I'm not going to knock it, right? He's handsome, right? So, I mean, and then they put him in a movie and they said, let's see what he can do, right? But I'm just saying how many other good looking rock stars could have been awesome movie stars? A lot of them probably.
yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, given the time and place, right? I'm not saying every one of them, but there are a handful of rock stars that were very good looking as far as guys and had a good stage presence where they could have won. I mean, I know Roger Daltrey made a few movies and like there were some guys that could have, that crossed over very easily, but there were a lot of other ones that could have very easily have done it as well. Jared Leto, I think is just time and place. He's just, somebody saw him and said, why is this good looking guy not, rocking our clothes or selling our outfits? And then the next thing you know, he's up and down runways, and he just used this fame to create this kind of empire. And now he's a global superstar, which I'm not knocking him for it, right? He did what he needed to do.
Sure. Yeah, no, I do think that Johnny Depp went to LA as a guitar player and tried to make it as a musician first and then took acting gigs to pay the bills. Same with Keanu. Like, I think that he was also a musician that, that took acting gigs because he was good looking enough or whatever, right? But I don't think that it necessarily means that if you're a good stage performer as a musician, that it translates into, good acting. You mentioned Roger Daltrey. I don't think that that he's all that great in Quadrophenia or Tommy. Quadrophenia is, I think, overrated in general, to be honest. And it was a snapshot of time, I guess. But David Bowie, I like The Man That Fell from Earth or Fell to Earth. Labyrinth is a classic and all that stuff, but he's a good actor? Not really. He's dodgy. I find that a lot of musicians are actually not that. Mick Jagger, holy shit, that's a bad actor. I've seen him in a couple of movies and it's just terrible. So it doesn't necessarily translate. So very few actually can do both.
I mean, I know Jonathan Davis had that role in the horror movie. He didn't do that bad in it. Right. I mean, he wasn't going to win an Oscar by any stretch, but he wasn't terrible. Right. I mean, there were a lot of guys that would have done a lot worse. He seemed to do pretty good as transitioning over, and there's a few guys that probably given the right, place and time to do something would be able to do it.
Arguably the one that does it best both ways is Jack Black.
Yeah.
I would say, he does comedy music and he does comedy movies, but really he can do both, like music stage stuff and movie stuff. So but so who would you say is a favorite legitimate musician that actually did well on screen? Like, you can even say Madonna, or whatever, right?
Yeah. I mean, given the time and place, right? like obviously I'm gonna throw it back a little bit, but like Frank Sinatra did good both, right?
Oh,
He
of
made
course,
like
yes.
great. So like Dean Martin made a bunch of
That,
westerns,
yeah,
could
exactly. Yeah,
sing, could
I
dance.
didn't even
So I
go
mean,
there.
those guys kind of like a different era, right? If I'm moving into the modern day of like rock stars and doing stuff, um, there's obviously, movies that where rock stars were in, right? Obviously Lemmy's made a bunch of cameos in a bunch of different movies. Do I call him an actor? Probably not, but he's got enough screen time to where you could arguably say that he's been an actor, right? He's made a couple movies besides cameos where he's had some scenes. Ellis Cooper rocked in Wayne's World, right? He had a couple big parts in that movie. He's made a couple horror movies. He's kind of,
Prince of
Dee
Darkness, yeah.
Snider made that horror movie where he was like the crazed lunatic with all the piercings. I mean, so there's guys that have done movies that have like had a movie where they were the star in the movie.
Gene
You know,
Simmons in Runaway.
yeah, Runaway, right? He did that movie with Ozzy Osbourne where they were in it together. That horror
Oh,
movie where
dear
they were
Jesus.
the. So I mean, they've done it, right? Like there's been actors that have kind of like crossed over, but I mean, like guys that have done it well. As much as like I said, you don't really like the guy, but I mean, Jared Leto's pretty. I mean, he's made some good movies with some big names, right? He's been in some pretty epic roles, right? He did that one with Denzel Washington where he played the guy they thought killed the guy, right? And Denzel Washington's trying to chase him to see where he buried the body, right? Like that was a pretty good movie. I mean, as much as it was, it was good, right? There's been a couple of the guys. I know the Travis Barker's been in a few movies, right? Where he's the drummer of Blink 182. He's kind of had the cameo, but he's been in and out of TV shows. He was with the Kardashians. He's made a few movies. He's been a cameo guy, so he's done fairly well in terms of that. There's been a lot of musicians that have kind of made the crossover. Obviously, as far as it goes, obviously he hasn't been in many of them, but like Rob Zombie's cameoed himself in a few movies and, put him, obviously he's a director, so it's a different kind of end of it, but his movies don't suck. I mean, he's very, talented when it comes to script writing and directing and putting a movie together. So, I mean, there's been quite a few that have made it. I mean, I know James Hetfield had a bunch of cameos in Billions. Axelrod, the character they're a Metallica fan, so they had a thing where they're in the dressing room and Hetfield's kind of talking with them. And I'm not saying Hetfield would be a lead in any movie, but he didn't do terrible in the TV show. I mean, he was on a few times. They had a bunch of cameos from different bands. So I mean, if you're talking, like Lady Gaga's another one, right? She's made some great films. She could sing. Taylor Swift hasn't really gotten into the acting yet, but I don't think
Yeah, she did one, right? That was terrible.
you know
I
she
turned it
makes
off.
a few movies. Maybe she gets a little acclimated into it. Madonna's another one, right? Madonna made some fantastic movies and put out number one albums. So I mean, you can't knock it. She's kind of was like the female pioneer. Barbara Streisand was another one. Made a bunch of movies, sang. There's been quite a few of those kinds of people that have kind of done both in that world, right? So there's a few. I mean,
Yeah, I would say that it's I'm usually more surprised the other way around. Like, I think that a lot of musicians that try to be actors often fail, or they just weren't good enough musicians but turn out to be
mhm,
better actors. But I'm I'm more surprised sometimes with actors that can really sing or play instruments or whatever,
yeah,
right? And again, it's probably that they might have started as musicians that didn't take off, and then they got an
yeah,
acting gig. But that also sort of speaks to the rarity of being able to be both a great actor and a great musician.
yeah,
You mentioned the Sinatras and Dean Martins. I mean, Dean Martin isn't the most fantastic actor of all time, and he's in pretty light movies for the most part. But Sinatra definitely had depth in
hmm,
him.
yeah.
Streisand you mentioned, like holy shit, that's good stuff, right?
Cher's
Um,
kind of done both, right? She's made some
there,
movies and sang,
thank you.
right?
I was struggling. I knew that there was one more. And Sherry was
Yeah,
arguably
she's
even a
another one.
better.
And you know who else is a really good musician too? When you hear him sing and stuff, is Antonio Banderas. He plays the
Yes,
guitar, it's the Spanish guitar. He sings. He acts like he. If you put Banderas in a musical, he'd sing just like anybody else does. Um, you know,
yeah. And when you
I
hear
was
Jeremy Renner sing, like his voice is fucking amazing.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to people failing up, right? Guys that go out to LA to be musicians and they become fantastic actors, so fail up, right? You're not successful as a musician, but you get, a lead in a movie and you become an awesome movie star, or you go out to act and your acting career actually sucks, but then you go play some gigs on the Sunset Strip and your band gets signed, right? Fail up, that's awesome, right? So,
Yeah,
one door closes, another one opens, right? So I'm not
exactly.
knocking anybody who did it, but there are some people that can do both and probably would be successful doing both, if they were given an opportunity to do that. I could see, there's a lot of flamboyant people. I know Perry Farrell made that one movie. He had a bunch of cameos in a movie. What I call Perry Farrell an actor, not by any stretch of the imagination, but he's flamboyant enough to make a movie. Like, you put him in something, he definitely would be able to succeed. Val Kilmer did The Doors, right? I mean, he sang every Jim Morrison song on that album, right? So I
Yes.
mean, do I think Val Kilmer is a musician by any stretch of the imagination? No. But if you put him in The Doors, he sang every Jim Morrison song on that soundtrack.
He
Awesome,
did.
right?
Yeah.
So, Val Kilmer, I put in that category. I know you mentioned Keanu a little bit, right? I, he's a decent musician. I don't know if he would be the most ultimate guy, but I know the guy that's in The Walking Dead and the one that was in the Boondock Saints. He's like in a punk band. The
Yeah.
the Irish dude. He did some of the score with the Boondock Saints. So I mean, like, you know,
Yeah.
do I think he's a musician? No, but I mean, is he good enough to sing a couple of tunes? Sure, right?
Yeah. I've been to a couple of Star Trek conventions in Vegas too, and it's pretty crazy how a lot of those actors are actually good musicians too, because
Yeah,
they in the evenings they have like bands play, and it's like so they've had like various Star Trek actors that are really good musicians, like Tuvok, the Black Vulcan guy
hmm
from Russ, fantastic guitar player. Holy
yeah,
shit, is he ever good? The redhead guy from the Orville, he was there, and man, he has the most beautiful voice as
yeah.
well, and he can play piano like nobody's business, and like so. Yeah, a lot of these artistic people have multiple talents, but are they prime time in all of them? No. So
Right.
it might be that they started with one and came up being successful in another because of opportunities
Yeah.
and the drive of entertainment, right? Um, but then there are also those like pop stars that feel like, oh, I'm so big now, I've done everything I can musically, I need a new challenge, let's try acting. And few, I would say, are successful at
I mean,
that. Lady
again,
Gaga definitely, did well
yeah.
in that. Madonna did for a while,
I mean,
right?
and we forget, the rest of the guys, but I mean, look at all those like pop boy band guys, right? Justin Timberlake is phenomenal,
Oh,
right?
he's a
He
great
can
actor.
sing and
Yeah,
dance. He can make movies, right? Like Timberlake's made a couple of awesome movies, right? Where
yeah, he's
he's
been
been the
good.
lead role in some of them, right? So I mean, he's one of them. Nick Carter's another one, right? The both of the Carter brothers were musicians, actors. They did everything. They kind of get the other guy in NSYNC, that Joey Fatone, right? He's made a couple movies. He's had some cameos and done TV shows and things like that. So I mean, there are some talented people that can do both.
And let's not forget LL Cool J. Let's
Yeah,
not
right.
forget Queen
Yeah.
Latifah. There's
Ice
Ice
T.
T. Ice T, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say is a great actor either, but
No, but
not as good as the other two, but definitely made some movies that
yeah,
are worth watching. So yeah,
you know,
he likes the post-apocalyptic, but yeah, and he did TV too, right? He
yeah.
did.
And it's kind of crazy because you mentioned Jack Black, but like you also had Sam Kinison. you know, that the Belushis, right? They were blues
Yeah.
musicians that were on Saturday Night Live. They made a bunch of movies, especially John Belushi, right? He's played guitar. Aykroyd's done kind of both, right? He's you know, sang and danced and, you know, done his stuff, right? I'm not saying Aykroyd's the greatest singer ever, but, you know, he's been on stage, plays the harmonica, you know, he does some stuff. John Candy, right? You know, it was did all the music and, you know, a lot of the movies he was in, right? When he was singing and dancing, that was him, right? I'm not saying he's got the greatest voice, but I mean, you know, he'd be able to pull it off if he given the, you know, circumstances. So I mean, there's quite a few, you know, people that can, you know, do both. Sandler, right? Adam Sandler's made music and acted and done the TV show, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's, you
Yeah.
know,
Do you have a favorite soundtrack though that's not, you know, a soundtrack of, you know, like a score, like, you know, your favorite film music? Do you have one of those?
um, I like so obviously like outside of musicals, right? Like a musical that you would watch on TV that
Right.
goes like I really like The Greatest Showman, right? In terms of like that.
Mhm.
Obviously the answer, you know, given like a heavy metal or hard rock thing, right, would be like the movie Heavy Metal, the cartoon one, or like where they that had a great soundtrack to it, right? Obviously all the Rob Zombie movies have had awesome soundtracks, right? Where they take the
Sweet Todd,
movies,
love Sweet Todd.
you know, so you know I would probably say the Devil's Rejects, right? They have a bunch of some country western stuff in it. They have some hard rock and heavy metal, right? So his stuff. You know, if I had, you know, if I had to have a favorite though, I mean, going back probably would just be Star Wars, right? Like the epic score to that, right? It's the first movie kind of you see as a kid, and you know
Oh
it
yeah.
just kind of resonates with you. The Rocky soundtracks were always awesome, right? All those fighting montages where he's training and stuff. So I mean, like that kind of stuff is, you know, those were epic soundtracks to a movie that was good, right? You know, Eye of the Tiger and you know
Yeah.
all the other stuff, and you know, and so you
So
know
cool.
those yeah those movies kind of just stick with you, right? I mean, how do you beat Star Wars as a soundtrack?
Yeah, no, really. I mean, it's hard to beat. Or Indiana Jones, like
Right.
anything John
Yeah.
Williams, you can just
So,
put it out there, you know.
all right.
But I mean, I was going a little bit towards. I wasn't expecting you to say that, but there are bands obviously that have scored movies, right? So not
Yeah.
just Nine Inch Nails. So we had Queen that did the Highlander, the
Yeah.
first movie, which is, you know, "Who Wants to Live Forever" song in it, you
Yeah.
know, which is absolutely fantastic.
You know, Guns N' Roses did Terminator
The
2,
original Dune movie was
right?
Toto as
Yeah.
well, right? So,
Uh, you know,
ooh,
Guns N' Roses,
legend.
you know, Terminator, right? Terminator 2 was Guns N' Roses. They had You Could Be Mine, and they kind
Oh
of,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that
that's
was
kind
more
of,
song placement.
you
You know,
know,
they
right?
didn't
But,
for it.
you know, that was their big thing, right? So, I mean, uh, you know, stuff like that, you know, but there's been, you know, quite a few, you know, as far as, you know, that goes, you know,
Well,
as,
Queen did Flash Gordon too,
yeah, right.
and I think that Brian May on his own has scored a few. Stuart Copeland of the Police has scored a few as well.
Hmm.
Um, and huge composer is the Devo guy. What's his name again?
Oh, I know Mark Mothersbaugh.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he's
And
done
he's
a
done a
ton of
lot of the
stuff.
Wes Anderson movies and
Yeah,
stuff.
and he does a lot of the kid stuff too, right? Like
Yeah.
he scores a lot of the cartoon stuff that kid shows and stuff like that, and the animation stuff. He's done a lot of scores. He's probably, you know, besides Devo alone, right? He's probably had his hands in hundreds of TV shows, if not thousands of TV shows.
Yeah, it's nuts. I watched a documentary about him, and he's also one of those highly creative people where it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, no, he's not sitting down with the synthesizer and a DAW with software synths or whatever. Like, no, he goes to like, you know, Goodwill stores and tries to find like, you know, what could sound good if I hit it with a
Yeah,
mallet. You know, like that's the kind of musician he is. You know, it's
right.
sounds a lot that he samples on his own in that case and turns into an instrument. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And you know, a
Um,
lot of the old like 70s horror movies had great soundtracks, right? like the Leone movies and the Fulci movies, right? Like they had those Italian composers that were just kind of there for them and created these ambient sounds and stuff like that. So, you know, they're awesome, right? Like those are great. The spaghetti westerns, right? All the old, you know, Italian westerns all had great scores.
Yeah, that's actually a little bit funny. Like the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
The entire foundation of the entire score is that in the first second of the actual movie, there's a coyote doing a howl that is and that's what what Morricone took and just turned into a song that turned into the whole score of the movie. Right. It was just a coyote call, which is pretty funny. But yeah, speaking of the old Italian ones, you know, Suspiria, you know, Goblin soundtrack to Suspiria.
That's what I was just gonna say, right? Goblin with Argento was a fantastic. Right.
So scary.
And it's and the movie is great, right? So like Halloween with John Carpenter scoring that, right? With just a guy in a mask, right? It's nothing over the top, it's no CGI, it's no, but like those are terrifying movies. When you watch the original Suspiria, right? And you have that scene where it's pouring and she walks in and the witches are like kind of behind the thing and she notices the shadows and they're like, oh, come on, luckily you've made it, you know, come and dry off, right? It's like that ambient sound that plays after that, that overtone, like that is just like spooky, right? Like that chills you.
Yeah, and then it goes into like the noisy, like
yeah, right.
It's like, what the fuck is going on?
So yeah, so awesome, right?
Yeah. But even the John Carpenter thing, I think is somewhat based on you know, the Mike Oldfield Tubular Bells that turned into The Exorcist, right? Which was, so he wrote the song before, and then the director, now I forget his name,
Peter. What's his name? Peter.
No, that's the author.
It's Peter something, I want to say, like Peter Eichel, or isn't it something like that? Or
anyway, he heard that song and thought it would be fantastic, so he sort of like commissioned Oldfield to do more for the movie, right? Because it was like, yeah, I like the first, you know, 2 minutes of the song, but the rest of it is fluff. So make more of those first 2 minutes and turn into the soundtrack. But I mean that obviously, you know, influenced Halloween and a lot of the other stuff. But it's also interesting, you know, some movies, I mean, there are some movies, especially the found footage movies, that have no soundtrack whatsoever, and that's what makes them scary. Or you take like the Friday the 13th, which has just a like that's not music, it's just like a fucking sound effect that is so iconic that, you know, it stays with you. So sometimes you don't really need the music. It actually better if you don't, you know, maybe sometimes it detracts, right?
Yeah, there's, you know, the thing is that like, I think with like music in general, right? It's what's appealing to the ear, right? And, you know, another one who always picks great music to go with his movies is, now I just can't think of it. Quentin Tarantino, right? Every movie that he picks, the songs that he picks for his movies are like perfectly like placed in each and every movie, right? So not only does he write the script, but a lot of times he'll pick songs to write scenes too, right? So the scene comes off of the song versus writing a script and then filling it in. So Tarantino, you know, obviously he takes bands that have made music, but his placement in his soundtracks is always awesome.
That was also something I with The Matrix, you know, I watched an interview with their music supervisor. That was like, I had been sitting on this one song, you know, for years and years, just waiting for the right movie to put it in, and then it was there, right?
Right.
So was that Ego Acid? No, that was in Blade. But anyway, yeah, there was just this sort of trance track from '92 or something like that was like, yep, here we go, right? Speaking of techno folks, there was a guy, you're an Elvis fan, so there was a Dutch guy called Junkie XL who was the first one to do an authorized remix of an Elvis song, a little less, what's it?
Yeah, I know, a little more.
Less conversation.
Yeah.
And he made a big beat type of thing of it. but he turned into a big time
Yeah. And then
music score guy.
a
Tom
lot of
Holkenborg.
clothing
So
brands
he
use
did
that.
Max Fury Road and
Yeah.
yeah, all kinds of movies like Alita, Battle Angel, The Dark Tower, whatever else.
Yeah.
So many movies.
And I definitely think the trance music, right, gets a lot more play in movies, right? That kind of has the, you mentioned Blade, right, where that soundtrack had a lot of trance and undertone goth to it, right? Obviously, it's a vampire movie, so that's a big one, right? But I mean, a lot of that kind of stuff, especially like we mentioned Keanu with John Wick. There's a lot of the trance and EDM music in that because it's high action, high energy, and if you have a high action, high energy movie, you need that kind of soundtrack to go with it, right? And let's face it, trance and EDM is very high energy, right? It's the sound
Yeah.
waves are big, the frequencies are big, the drops are big, the bass is big, right? So that goes with hand in hand, right? In terms of what you're going to use in a movie, right? So a lot of the EDM and trance music and dubstep gets put in a lot of movies that are high pass to high action, right? So those movies kind of go hand in hand too, right? So it's not just the heavy metal or like the stuff for that. It's also the dance and EDM stuff is really energetic, so it gets placed in a lot of movies.
Yeah, and I have a hot tip there for you, and it's an underrated movie and an even more underrated score. It's a John Travolta movie called Swordfish,
Yeah,
and the score was made by Paul Oakenfold, who's one of the biggest names
yeah,
in all
DJ,
of
yeah.
electronic dance music.
Hmm.
So he did the score for that. Fantastic! I was another score that I could listen to as an album.
Yeah,
Swordfish, look it up.
yeah, that's a good one. And then I was gonna say too, as far as scores go for music that just fits perfectly is Crank, right? With Statham. Like that soundtrack is just, I mean,
Oh,
you can't get a better soundtrack to an action movie than Crank. Like
I
that is just
love that
awesome.
movie. I even like Crank too. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
right.
fantastic, and the music
It's
is just right for it too. It just
yeah, it's just all
never
adrenaline.
stops. It
Every
never
song and that
stops.
soundtrack is perfectly fit for that movie.
Like I love it. Like
Yeah,
nobody talks about Crank, but I think about it often.
yeah, right.
What a fantastic over the top movie
Yeah, that
and
was
great
awesome.
soundtrack.
And
Yeah,
most of Statham's movies are like that, right? They have good soundtracks to them. They have good music to the energy of the stuff, right? Even like in the first movie with the transporter, right? He's playing
yeah,
classical music and he picks up the guy and he's like, he has to go. There's too much weight in the car. He goes, rules are rules. He shoots the guy, kicks it out, and then it just starts blasting. He takes off, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
that's like the greatest opening movie to a scene to any movie, right? Um, Top Gun had a great soundtrack, right? Like how do you get better than that, right? You get a guy
I
in a
think
in
so
a in a
too.
fighter jet and take it off, and it's like, shit, this is
Oh,
awesome, right?
yeah, no, I'm gonna argue that one. I think the Top Gun is so cheesy. I thought it was cool when it came out when I was a
I love that sound.
wee,
That's awesome.
but Kenny Loggins, oh man, it's like the Scarface songs are also like painfully bad sometimes. Like
Yeah.
push
There's
it to the
there's
limit. Yeah,
Yeah, we talked about Doom earlier. Like Doom is really good. Um, I can't think of the name of the movie. It's a Seagal movie that had a really good soundtrack. I don't remember if it was Out for Justice or if it was. It's not the reggae one. It's the one where Dennis Forsythe's the gangster. That had a really good soundtrack. I don't know if that's Out for Justice or if that's, but that one was really good, right? And even Mark
so
Verdette had a good one, right? With all the Jamaican music, right? With the posse, it kind of introduced the world to a lot of the Jamaican style music, the island music. That was kind of a good one. As far as it goes, right, in terms of like mariachi, like Cheech and Chong had great soundtracks, right? Like it had the comedic stuff, but like it introduced the world to a lot of the Mexican street music.
yeah, I never really watched those to be honest. Wrong side of culture there, I think.
Yeah.
Um, But I remember Tank Girl was another sort of
Hmm.
cool soundtrack. Like you had like some of the punk poppy stuff.
Yeah.
Um, um, I lost it. I had it in my head. No, I lost it. I had another example of like Tank Girl ish type of thing.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, all those post-apocalyptic movies you generally have good soundtracks.
Resident
Just
Evil. I was
yeah,
what I was going to say.
yeah. So like those kind of movies, like Mad Max, that they had wild soundtracks and scores and stuff like that. They were a lot of that kind of stuff, right? But it just depends, right? Like what movies are you watching at a given time, right? A lot of the John Hughes '80s movies, had the songs that were embellished at that time, right? So like you take example like The Breakfast Club, right? Those were the songs of that era, right? Don't You Forget About Me, all the other stuff in the high school and music that they were listening to. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? Had a pretty good soundtrack, in terms of that, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Thunderdome. We
the
don't need another hero.
yeah, and then you look at like movies that introduce bands to us, right? Like, you have Home Alone introduced TSO to the world, right? They were Sabotage, they were an awesome rock band. All of a sudden they come out with Christmas Eve Sarajevo. It's played in Home Alone. Everyone's like, who is this band? And TSO is now a thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're
No. This.
there's a lot, and we could probably talk for hours about like soundtracks through the course of history, right? From the first movies that were introduced sound to us, right? Like The Wizard of Oz, right? When you watch that and you hear all the stuff going on in the background, right? The Godfather, all the classic movies that had great scores, right? you know Going all the way back to the old Casablanca, right? What a great score that was, right? It's an old black and white movie. It's a love movie with Humphrey Bogart, but like what an awesome soundtrack, right? Gone
Yeah.
with the Wind is another one, right? A lot of these older movies had scores because that's what composers did. They wrote the music to the movie, right? So they're watching it as it's playing on screen and they're conducting music as it's happening. What a cool concept that would have been to be a composer back in the day, right? And say, okay, write the music to this, and here's a silent film. Basically, put music to it.
Yeah, and I think where it's going now too, where with these sounds being available as sample libraries as well, I can sit here at home and create a massive choir sound or whatever, right? Anyone can with a computer and a little bit of cash to get access to those libraries. Um, but I think also that means that, especially in metal and stuff now, there's the neoclassical thing where people are taking cinematic elements. I put a lot of cinematic booms and whooshes and shit in my music, and the Omen style choirs, from the original Omen soundtrack and all that stuff. It's almost getting saturated now in the metal scene to use that kind of like dissonant, scary choir work and big orchestras and stuff. So, but it seems like in the metal scene, definitely it's the cinematic more than the classical.
And the samples are becoming a lot more obscure now, right? When you listen to metal songs and you see what songs they're actually sampling, right? And you get the old type of big bang, orchestral stuff in the songs, right? It's kind of a new thing now. It's trending itself over again, right? Like they're using it, and it's kind of weird. But you take opera music, right, and classical music, they're synonymous with like heavy metal, right? Like with the way that they kind of engage off of each other, right? You can't take jazz and mix it with metal. Some bands do, but it takes a very particular band to figure it out. You can't really take Big Bang. You can't really take any of that kind of stuff, and turn it into metal. But like classical music and metal just kind of just mold themselves. They morph into each other. It's a really cool concept to see it happen, and a lot of bands do it very well.
Yeah, but I think also the cinematic style is also like it provides a good like cinema music with few exceptions is supposed to augment the visuals, right? It's supposed to help out something else that's in the forefront that is a bit more important, right? Sometimes there are crappy movies where the composer feels like I can make this movie better by putting the music a little bit more in the forefront, right? But I think that that's what kind of appeals to the metal scene too, in terms of adapting more cinematic type music, because it's still about the riffs, it's still about the guitars
Right.
and the drums and the growls or whatever, right? But they want a more majestic, beefy background to
Yeah.
lift up the rest of it. So I think that the those scores
Yeah.
and all those 100+
Right.
years of movie scoring
Yeah.
is benefiting metal as it
What are
is
some of
right
your
now.
favorite soundtracks, just out of curiosity? What kind of,
Yeah.
I vibe differently
See,
on different days. I mean, I can't give you one right now, but like, I know Ellie mentioned it earlier, but like, I can listen to the Halloween soundtrack and watch that movie 5 times in a row. It just doesn't get old
yeah.
to me. It doesn't get boring. The Halloween one could end, and I could watch Halloween two, and then I can rewind and watch Halloween one, and then watch Halloween two on a loop pretty consistently, right? Like they don't get old to me. Like I could do that. I could do the same thing with the classic Star Wars, right? Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Like those movies can loop. Those soundtracks are great, right? I could watch those 3 movies in a row, rewind them, and watch them again. I know you mentioned the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indiana Jones stuff, right? I could watch those all day long, right? I can loop those.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of those are kind of like goes without saying. Like I don't have to say that any of the
Mhm.
John Williams stuff or whatever, right? I did say that my favorite is Tron Legacy. I think it's
Okay.
fantastic. I do like the Hellraiser.
Yeah.
The first 2 scores are
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
fantastic. Ghostbusters. Uh, I I like Vangelis. I'm a fan of his
Hmm.
music. I mean, and Blade Runner is my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
So obviously that works really well for me too. I have, and we mentioned Suspiria Goblin thing just because it's so damn
Hmm.
different. Um, and
I mean, Suspiria is a classic movie,
I
right? Like, it's top five
yeah.
horror movie for me, right? So, like, the soundtrack, the experience, watching it. And the cool thing I love about Suspiria is you kind of have the suspicion, but you don't really know until the end when it unfolds in the last scene, right? You kind of have an idea something's up, but you don't really know what it is. And it kind of just takes you through that loop, right? Suspiria is one of the most underrated horror movies of all time, right? In terms of like ambiance and like actual scare effect, because it's not an ultimately gory or scary movie, but through the whole movie, you know something's up and you just don't know what it is. And at the last scene, it kind of unveils itself to you, and it's like, oh, well, I didn't see that coming.
And to me, movie wise, it was almost like hearing Napalm Death for the first time too.
Hmm.
It's like I've never seen I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like this. Like nothing comes close.
No,
Like
not at all.
visually, with the soundtrack and everything, it was just like so weird and so out there, and like that it's not. Like where they sleep, for example, it's like this.
Hmm.
What the hell is
Yeah.
going on?
Because it's
So,
it's
so
kind of
yeah,
like dorm style, but then it's kind of like you understand why they're doing it because they're a dance studio, right? And it's like the best dancers in the world, and they're kind of explaining like how these kids get in and how they have to go through years and years and years of ballet and dance to be entered into this prestigious dance school, right? It's not just they don't let anybody in. So it's kind of like a club, right? Like you have to be invited in, and then it's kind of like you understand like where it's going with the whole thing. So it
yeah,
was just so well done. I mean, what a great movie.
yeah. I did want to, because we talked about the movies that have a soundtrack that are more songs, and I think as good as Just Midnight and those albums are, I think in terms of use in movie, my favorite of all of those is Guardians of the Galaxy. Like,
Yeah,
it's right up there
yeah, sure.
with Tarantino movies. Like, every piece of music is
Yeah,
perfectly placed, and it enhances the
yeah,
emotion, right? When Supertramp comes on, or 10cc,
yeah,
sorry, when
right.
10cc come on,
Yeah.
it's like,
And then hooked on a
oh,
feeling, right? Like you just get it, right? You're like,
it's
you,
it's
you know,
magnificent. It's
yeah. And
perfect.
what's kind of
I
crazy
actually
too,
have
because
that on
like,
vinyl.
yeah.
So
And what's awesome about that too is that like Another one that like every song in the movie is kind of just fits in his place is like Forrest Gump, right? Like every
Yeah,
song on that,
true.
like, you know, you listen to the Forrest Gump soundtrack, it's the greatest hits of the 50s, 60s, and 70s music, right? Like it's got all your classics on there. They just all fit like perfectly in the place. And then the last Deadpool did that, right? Like the way that they kind of
Yes.
put that soundtrack together. But I think Guardians of the Galaxy was the first one in like the comic book era to like do that, right? Like let's pick a bunch of awesome songs that everybody resonates to, everybody knows it, and let's just put them in a movie, and it worked, right? Like how awesome was that? You know
Yeah.
you know that they compiled it to where every song fit exactly where it needed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much perfect. Good call, right? Because I mean, it's not just the right song at the right time, but it's also the ties into the story
Sure.
of, well, his mom gave him that mixtape,
Right.
and then it
Yeah.
ends with him finding a second mixtape, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you know, and the first mixtape was so good,
Yeah.
so the
Right.
second one must be, you know, even better, But so yeah,
Yeah. That's a good
so it was
call. That's
interesting.
a good one.
So it yeah, and I have it. I think it's a double LP, even like a double
Mhm.
album that I have. When I put it on, I still miss not having the movie to watch.
Yeah.
So the two definitely complement each other
Yeah.
for that.
That's for sure, right? And you know, and then you know another one too, right? Like you know, we talk about this, and we you know we could bring this up, you know, for days. But I mean, like how many albums became concept albums that they turned into short films or movies, right? Like The Wall, for example, right? Like Pink Floyd, you
Um,
can listen to that and like you can see that movie in your head when you're listening to the album. Like you could see the hammers dropping, you could see the meat on the assembly line, right? You could see the kids walking in school, right? It's just a cool thing. Like you've seen the movie and you understand what's going on. But when you, every time I pop on The Wall and listen to it, I could see the movie in my head and I'm just looking at a wall, right? Literally, like I could see it playing in my head. It's just cool concept that like you remember that so vividly.
yeah, and how often when you hear Simon and Garfunkel do you think of Dustin Hoffman, right?
Yeah,
Or
right.
what?
Exactly. Yeah.
Then there's Cat Stevens and Harold and Maude too.
Hmm.
I've only seen that movie once, and it was kind of weird. So I don't have that attachment to the movie itself, but that soundtrack too, which is a collection of songs for the movie. But he actually wrote the songs for the movie, but
Yeah.
not as a score. But anyway, yeah, that's another one of those where it's like songs that come together into the movie, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think of. There was another one that came to mind. Um, I forget. Shit, yeah,
Yeah. It's a lot
lost
of
it
them,
again.
right? Because like you know,
There,
there's
there
songs like Midnight
are concept
Cowboy,
albums,
right?
right?
When you watch Midnight Cowboy, you recognize somebody mentioned the Bee Gees, right? Every time you see Dance Fever, you know it's the Bee
Oh
Gees, right? You
yes,
see Travolta dance, like you know, you got the soundtrack to the movie, right? You know that's
that's
coming,
exactly
right?
what I was talking about
Grease
too.
is another one, right? You got Grease. You watch the movie, you know every song in the movie, right? From Beauty School Dropout to the like, you know, to Grease is a classic, right? Like it's a song and dance movie, but every song in that soundtrack is awesome, right? It was just
Yeah,
made for having fun and dancing as a teen movie, right? So it's just
yeah,
it's cool,
exactly.
you know. And you know, you look at like a lot, like I said, a lot of the '80s movies, like look at Weird Science, right? What an awesome soundtrack. Every 80 awesome '80s song was in Weird Science, right? It was just kind of the cool thing to have, right? It was just a good soundtrack to an okay movie, right? I mean, you know, everybody liked the idea of you know two nerds creating a awesome you know good looking girl, right? You know, but the soundtrack was great to that movie.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of the Beatles, I really liked the movie Yesterday.
Mhm.
If you've seen that, that's the guy that wakes up in a world where where the Beatles didn't exist, but he knows all
Mhm.
the songs, so he
Yeah,
becomes famous for playing Beatles songs. So that's really cool. The way that those songs are being played too a little bit
yeah,
differently, so I like that one a lot.
yeah. There's
So
a you know there's a lot, and you know, like I said, we could talk for hours about this. It's a really cool subject. You know, when this podcast like this live ends, guys, like put like in the comments, like send me and Kelly messages, like Tell us your favorite soundtracks. Introduce us to stuff we might not know, right? There's a lot of stuff out there that I haven't seen, right? I like action movies. I like dramas. I like horror. I like comedy. But there's a lot of comedy movies I haven't seen. So if there's any you recommend, right? One every time I sit down, I'm like, oh, what am I going to watch? I watch the same stuff over and over again. Like, drop a comment, like, put it in, like, send us messages, tell us what to watch, and then maybe we could find something unique that we haven't seen before and might, shock us that we're like, how did I not know about this?
Right. And I just got to throw it in there. I'm a huge fan of the 90s Disney stuff, like from Aladdin
Yeah,
onwards,
right. Yeah.
The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, Lion King, Pocahontas,
The
right?
metal
They're all,
guy,
yeah.
that, Mulan and
Elton John,
and
right? And George Michael and what they did in The Lion King is awesome, right? I mean, those two guys collaborated on a couple songs, but Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me was awesome that they used it in that movie, and it a whole new generation heard that song.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Wayne's World Queen thing, right? Like, we all grew up on Queen, but kids in the late 80s and early 90s that watched Wayne's World for the first time had no idea what Queen even was. Like, it introduced Queen to another generation.
Yeah.
So, like, awesome that they use that stuff, that it works, and it turns out to be fantastic in a movie, right? That it kind of just recycles itself. And like I said, Tarantino's notorious for that, right? He plays songs and they're like, oh, I wonder what that is. And now people are Googling that song and it becomes a hit again, out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Some artists that, again, stretching their legs that don't, I mean, Phil Collins wrote the music for Tarzan.
Yeah.
Like you said, Elton John has written a few movie songs as well. And Lady Gaga, with what was that movie called?
With Bradley Cooper. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think that, for musicians that don't want to be actors but still want to stretch their legs a little bit,
Yeah.
I think it's good that people are reaching out to them, and now it's just a matter of
Right.
getting more heavy music people, not just Trent
Right.
Reznor, to help out with that. Like Mick Gordon, how
Yeah.
good of an action movie would he be able to score?
Yeah, right. And you know what? I would almost be willing to say, like,
Crank.
I'd like to
Crank
see,
Cool.
like, maybe like somebody along the lines of, like, I know Jonathan Davis did a couple scores to movies. They were more low key, low budget, like, movies that quite weren't. But I mean, I wonder, like, what Corey Taylor would do, like, if he got to score a movie, or like somebody who has like a good mind for like music. Like, I bet he would do a pretty good job at it. I know Mike Patton scored a few movies, right? He was the voice in the zombie movie. He's done a couple, but like somebody like that, or like, Buzz Osborne, right? What would he do? Phantomas made a rock album, a metal album with covering movie scores and songs, right? Choice cuts, the Phantomas album, the real cuts one that they did. How those guys scoring a movie would be fantastic, right? If they were given a chance to really, like, how awesome would that be?
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a bunch of folks that, if given the chance, it's like,
Yeah,
hey, you're our plan A, but just so you know, we have a plan B in the background
Right.
too, right? So if you don't quite, if you bow out after
Yeah.
a few months and you can't cut it, that's okay.
Yeah.
We've got plan B. We got a ringer waiting in the wings to step in.
yeah,
case,
exactly, right.
like that might feel like a little bit of a safety net to some. But yeah, I think that there would be a bunch of guys that would be awesome. Like, and even people that, like, say on Al Natrok, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you tell them to score a movie, they wouldn't go balls out, full on noise score, right? They wouldn't.
Yeah.
They would respect the medium,
Sure.
I think, and just be really creative about it. Igor, holy shit, would that be cool?
Yeah, I think a lot of, and I think, too, with a lot of the stuff, what's going on and things like that, and and how music relates and resonates to people, right? Not always are the metal guys going to write metal albums, right? Like, they could write other things, right? So scoring a movie with somebody who's got a really good idea for mind, right, and songs and writing good music would be able to score a movie, right? It's not always the obscure guys, right, and the stuff like that, right? But I mean, I bet some of those like black metal guys would do awesome jobs. Like if you said, here, score a movie, like just what they would come up with would be unique, right? Because they have this kind of like, you know, a little bit of a warped mind, but a little bit of appreciation for obscurity and stuff like that. Like I bet they would come up with some really cool stuff.
Good call on that one. I would love to see Isan
Yeah,
do that.
I was, I was thinking that, or uh the dude from Gorgoroth, that guy's just,
Oh, but he's doing Vikings, right? You know, he's
yeah.
or the Vordruna guy.
No, the guy from Gorgoroth, I forget his name.
Gaul
The
himself.
Gaul, yeah. Like how
Yeah,
cool would
okay.
he be, right? To like kind of sit down and like, or like a Danny Phil type of thing where like you have their music is their music, but like their mind expands, right? That they would probably come up with some really cool stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, no, I was thinking about because the Wardruna guy was in Gorgoroth, right? But
Yeah,
he's done tons of
right.
music for the Vikings TV show and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he's already been there.
Right, right.
So cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
My wife is
yeah,
calling for me, I
we'll
should
call it a
say,
night,
so
guys.
we gotta drop, but
Yeah, no, that's awesome, right? So do the family thing, right? But guys, as I always say, support Kelly, do the arsenic thing, guys. Download his music. He's working on the EP. It's coming together. Please, guys, just support him. I know you guys, do it for me, but like Kelly's, really focused on this. Like, let's make his dream come true, right? So start supporting him. Download the music. It's on every major platform. It's under arsenic. I tag him and everything, guys. So he's easy to find. Just follow him, support him, and let's make Kelly's dreams come true and put him on stage and let him do his thing, right? Because the world's got to see that talent. So let's get him up there.
thank you so much, and thank you for having me on so often, and for all your patience and
Always,
plugging in all that
anytime,
stuff.
yeah.
Love
It's
it. Thank you
fantastic.
so much.
So, all right, guys, we're gonna let everybody go. Have a good night. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Be kind. Be loving. Support each other and put a little kindness in the world, guys. We'll see everybody on the next one, whenever that is. If it's next Thursday or the Thursday after, we'll see. But thank you again for all the love and support. We really appreciate it, and we couldn't do this without you. So, thank you all for everything, and we'll see you on the next one, guys.
Thank you.